All right, here we go. So, welcome, welcome. If you are new here, I am so glad you came to join us, and I hope you find this to be a really good use of your time. If you've been here before, welcome back. If you're watching on YouTube, go to the description, grab the handout for this session so you can follow along. And if this kind of legal technology talk is helpful, make sure to comment, like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell for more videos on legal technology talk. And Beth, do you have a handout today?
No, I don't.
Okay, so there will not be a handout in the video.
No.
All right, Beth, take it away.
Okay. So today we are going to dive into automations in Lawmatics and explaining automations and what they actually are, what they actually do, the anatomy of them. So I'm just going to jump in here to one of our automations and start up here. So all the automations have settings in them, and some of them you can change after they're created, and some of them you cannot. But we'll just go down through here. First of all, is the name. If an automation is inactive, you can change the name of it. You can change a lot of different things. You can put a description in there for what that automation does for you. That is very good practice when you're setting up automations, because if you don't get the name, and the name may make sense to you and may not make sense to anybody else, but if you put a description in there of what it's actually doing, that is a good practice to do. Now, automations can be put into folders. So there's some organization that's available now in automation. So this is the folder it's in. And then there's skip conflicts. Now, skip conflicts is very misleading and confusing because it all depends on how you look at things. So if I say skip conflicts in my brain, that says if there is a conflict, ignore it and keep going, right? So it's on. That's what you would think. That does not, that's not what that actually means. It actually means that you will skip matters that has a conflict. So you're not actually skipping the conflict, you're actually skipping the matter that has the conflict. So if this is turned on, if there is a conflict in a matter, this will not run on that matter.
Beth, can I just ask, is that referring to conflict of interest checks?
Yes. Yep.
Okay.
Those are any conflict checks. Yes. So if you have skip conflicts on, you're not skipping the conflict. You're skipping the matter where there is a conflict. Okay. That trips people up a lot. So generally, if you want this to run on a matter, whether it has a conflict or not, then you want to turn it off and it will run on everything. Then you have your eligible statuses. So Lawmatics has three main statuses. They are PNC, hired, and um, lost. You can put your sub statuses in here as well. So you can run them on like all of your PNCs, but you can also be very specific and only run them if the sub statuses follow up or things like that. Generally, you're going to use your all major ones. There's other ways to filter things out and do other things with your substatuses. There's other ways to handle that, but generally, you're going to use your main statuses for that. And then you can add tags to this. So when you add tags to it, you can put tags on it so you can find it easily, and that goes into your organization part.
You're gonna be in the training room instead, because
Okay, so all of that information is up here. Now you'll notice there's something up here that is not in the settings, and that is your target type. So you can't change that here. Once it is set up as a matter automation or a contact automation, you can't change that. And you also can't change the type of automation that it is. All right. So now we see where kind of all of that is. Let me go back and show you when you're creating one, we're talking about different types of automations. And these are the types of triggers. So when you have just a trigger automation, that is triggering off of any numerous amount of things. That can be a form submission. That can be an appointment scheduled. Okay, the act of scheduling the appointment. That can be a field in a matter that gets filled in. That can be a matter created. It can be like any of those things. There is a lot, and that is what your normal automation thing is. Your appointment and your date field, both of these are based off of the date. Your appointment is based off of an appointment date. So if you schedule a meeting, that the automation that runs when you schedule a meeting is going to be a trigger automation. If you want that appointment to do something so many days before, so many days after, hours before, whatever, that appointment, then that is an appointment based automation so that it triggers and runs on that appointment time and date. And the same with a date field. So with a date field, when you put a date in, you can then make an automation to run before or after that date. Okay. So those are your three main types of automations. And that you cannot change after they're created along with your target type, because when you're creating it, you can choose a matter or a contact. You can choose one of those different types of automations, right? So now let's go back to one of our demo consultations or demo automations. This is a consultation outcome. So on this screen, you can go here to click your settings to open your settings. If you want to change any of this, you can turn it on and off here. And this part allows you to, this is expand all. And what that means is that opens up all of your actions down here so you can see them all. This is your trigger. This is what starts it. This is trigger based, and the entry rule for this is that when that consultation form is filled out, and that is every time it's filled out. So you can put that in there. Now you'll see we have shared rules and use shared rules. So you can use a shared, you have the ability to save this rule. And if we wanted to name it, we would name it as consultation form submitted. And now if I'm going to create multiple automations for this one thing, I can do that and it'll just be that rule. I can use that share rule. And then if I change, I can change that shared rule and it will change it on all of the automations that are linked to that. Okay. So that gets confusing. So really keep track of that and it does tell you that, you're using a shared rule. You can unlink it from that and then make changes. You can do all of those types of things. So it does give you enough warning, but just remember, if you change that shared rule, it's going to change for everything that it's linked to. Now I'm going to unlink this. Yeah, I know. We're going to unlink it from that shared rule, because you don't always need just one trigger and one criteria to start it, because you can add to them. So this is where you can use and or a lot. This one we're doing if it is the consultation form was filled. I can do something else here. I can go in here and I can add something in here, right in this entry condition. So the condition is when this happens, we filled a form, we filled this, then I can add new. Now this gives me all of this stuff, right? So I can go in here and I can say if it matches a field. So if my consultation outcome is equal to something, and it gives you the option of is equal to, is not equal to, is one of, is not one of, has any value or has no value. So this allows you a lot of flexibility in setting up these triggers. And the whole is one of is great. And I'm going to actually change this to practice area because we can make ones operate differently for different practice areas. So if I say the practice area is one of estate planning or oh dear, probate or trust administration, I can put that up here and add it to that. And I'll show you what that then looks like. So in here, it'll have this and this. Now I can add another condition and I can say that other condition is maybe it's a different field. So I can pull in here. And these are all of the fields that are in there and available. All of your contact fields are in there and all of that is in there. If I want to say the status is a PNC, it would be because I have that up there at the top, but it'll go down here. And so it's this or the status is a PNC. Biggest mistake people make here is that they don't think through the ands and the ors. Because when you're stacking things together like this, as it currently stands, if we turn this on, would run on every matter that's a PNC, whether this form was filled or not, because this is an or. If we switch that to an and, now it's not going to. That is the biggest mistake that people make in setting it up. And then they're like, I don't know why it's doing this. Well, that's why. So this is your entry conditions and all of the stuff for that. So now if we add a condition, let's go through all of the things that are available here. You can do this registered for an event. So this is one of your workshops or seminars. Someone registers for that. You can make things happen. Email activity. So you can grab any one of the emails, and if it was opened or clicked, then you can have something happen. So you could get really drilling into this very far and saying, I'm sending these marketing emails out. And you can go in here and create an automation and say, if this marketing email was clicked, then do this stuff. Maybe send them another email, maybe mark it in their matter, maybe do whatever, but you can get really granular down in there with that.
Beth,
Okay.
can I give a big example on that?
Sure.
That's if
Absolutely.
you have a lead magnet. Let's say you have a lead magnet on your website where you're saying, fill out this form and we're going to send you a free tool. We do this on our website.
Mhm.
And then once they fill that out, it goes into Lawmatics. Lawmatics kicks in the automation and delivers that tool to them. You can have things in here that then say, wait 2 days. If that email was not opened, send a reminder. Oops, it looks like you didn't get this. And you can keep doing that. And then you can say, once it is opened, then you can start a drip campaign of the practice area that ties to, and even how to use the tool or whatever you delivered to them. So you can completely automate that to get them to open it and then deliver a drip campaign after. That's a really good example use of this.
Yeah, absolutely. Some of the other ones that are in here is, of course, fill the form. You select which form it is. And then if you want it to run once or every time that form is filled, sometimes you don't want it to run every time it's filled. Requesting files. If you requested files from someone and say, we sent this file request to someone, and if when it was submitted, when that file request is submitted, it can then send an email internally or back to the client or whatever, or create a task for someone internally to do something with those. Like you can do all kinds of things off of that, but that is a trigger. And if they signed a document, so if you sent them an engagement agreement and they signed it, you can do things to either internally or externally. It can trigger some things to happen. an appointment. If an appointment was created, you select what kind of appointment. You can also choose your location match. And you can use this then to do things internally, like to move them to the correct stage in their process, or to send them a confirmation email. Now, there's other ways to send confirmation emails, and I'm going to talk about that a little later, but you can do that in here as well. This is one way to do that. And if they paid an invoice, same thing. You choose what the invoice is, they pay that invoice, it can kick in certain things to happen. Task activity, if a certain task was completed, a task with a certain tag was completed, then certain things can happen. So this is where you can set up the things. And I know some people have been asking for this for a while, that if I get a task and it is to do something, I do that, then I also need to go change the stage and send this email and do. No, you can do this so when you complete that task, it can do everything else for you. Can run a conflict check. And it can check the conflict check statuses. Sorry, this is the trigger. So it can check the conflict check statuses and notify people, send emails to clients, whatever. E-signature packets are kind of the same as a document. Those have been added so you can send a form along with a document and another form to someone, so that they're not only signing a document, but you're also gathering information. So that is a new one that's added, but it's the same as signing a document. And match on fields. So match on fields is any field in the matter. It's your standard fields, it's your custom fields, it's anything in there. Any of those matches will then trigger it. Okay. So those are all of the triggers. How to get that going. This is what starts it. Now, if we were to, and let me go back here to our appointment based. All right. So now the appointment based ones are a little different, because there, when this happens, is you can put a time in there. So for this one, it's 10 minutes before the initial consultation starts. Okay. So this automation starts when you schedule that initial consultation meeting, but it sits in there as delayed, and it's delaying. It's scheduled. Actually, I think they say scheduled. They're scheduled out. And what that means is they're scheduled to run 10 minutes before the initial consultation starts. 10 minutes before, it's going to send this form. And this is going to send it internally to the owner of the matter, who is the person who is conducting this meeting, and it's going to send this consultation form to them. That's all it's going to do. This is a very simple, small automation. It's going to do those things, but this is going to run 10 minutes before. You can edit this to any minutes, hours, days, weeks, months, years. And you can do all of that, and you can do it before or after, whether it starts and ends. Okay. You can add location matches to this. So you can say, if it's 10 minutes before for the initial consultation starts, if it is a Zoom meeting, do this. And then you can do something else and say, if it is an in-person meeting, do this. So you can do all of these different things in here, right? You can also add additional conditions to these. You cannot add another, like, 10 minutes before an initial consultation starts, or 10 minutes before a planning meeting starts. Like, you can't do that. Each meeting type has its own for the 10 minutes before. Now, what Lawmatics did when they made this available this way is they gave you unlimited automations. So you can get as many as you want. You can have as many, and it's easy to duplicate and just keep changing and building. Okay. So that's not as bad as it sounds, where I have to have a different one for each one. You can build one, duplicate, change, duplicate, change. So it's not that bad. The other thing is the dates. So if it is date field based, so this is part of our maintenance program. And what this does is 0 days before the maintenance renewal date, And this is one that has an and. So this is a field in the matter. This renewal date is a field in the matter. And if their status is first year membership and legacy member is false, and bypass automations is false, and renewal date has any value, like there's all these things that are in there to make sure. And we've been playing with this, and some of them are in here twice. But so all of those things are in there that 0 days before, which means on the day of the maintenance renewal date, this automation will then run. And it will do what it is meant to do, what we built it out to do in there. Which in this case is actually create and send the invoice to the person for their maintenance renewal. So yeah, so it takes care of all of that, but it's triggering off of a date field in the matter. And that has to be a date field. This is not an appointment. This is just a date field. Okay, now into the fun stuff, the actual meat and bones of an automation. And that is this middle section, which is all of your actions. So, one of the things you can add is a delay. And I'm going to show you this one because this one kind of does a lot of things in it in particular. And then I'll come back to everything that we can add. We can add a delay. So what I did with this was, this is a consultation form on every submission. And I, of course, added all this stuff to it that didn't matter. But after that form is submitted, it's going to wait for 2 minutes. So why do we have it wait for 2 minutes? Well, there's a reason for that. For one, we're human. It's very possible to go in there and submit that form and go, oh, wait, I didn't have that right. And go, oh, and open it back up and fix it. Okay, so you got 2 minutes to fix it. That's basically what it is. We allow you a 2-minute grace period in there to go. The other thing is that we want to make sure that any other automations that were triggered by what you did are running. So a lot of times when you have multiple automations that will do different things, sometimes you have to stagger their start times a little bit, and make sure that they don't fight, because we've had automations fight. They're our silent employee, but sometimes they're not so silent when they start fighting with each other and they're trying to change the same field at the same time, and it messes up, and then the outcome is not what you thought it was going to be. So we always give that in a situation like this, we give that little 2-minute delay, one for human and the other for the automation, so they don't fight. Then it comes down to an if-else condition. So in this case, we have a field that is in this form that is the outcome. And we ask the person hosting this meeting, what is the outcome of this meeting? Okay. So if the outcome is follow-up, what do we want it to do? Well, if it's follow-up, we can track this track over, and we're going to change it to the stage of consultation post follow-up. Okay. Now, there's another automation that when you change it to that stage, it starts its drip campaign to get them to follow up with them. Okay. You don't need to do that in this one because we're triggering the next automation by putting it in that stage. Right? If they're not interested, then it moves them, it puts a substatus to not interested, puts a status to lost, and the stage to not interested after consultation. That's it. Done. If you've referred them out, I'll just continue down across here. It does the same thing, moves them into the stage of referred out. Refuse the client, same thing. Firm review puts them into firm review, but then that also triggers an automation. And if we're doing a paper agreement needed, then here's this, and it adds a task for someone to prepare and send them a paper agreement. Or we do agreement sent, and we put it in the stage of the agreement sent, and we send them an agreement. So at this point, you can put all these different things in there and it can automatically send them an agreement. So now here's where we get into what do we do with this? Now, Consultation outcome on here. Some of your outcomes, let me use the intake form as an example. So if on our intake form also has an outcome right here, and if the outcome is consultation scheduled, the automation behind this doesn't need to do anything. Because if they've scheduled a consultation, the act of scheduling that consultation will automatically run that other automation. Okay. So this is where you can get into automations trying to fight. Because if you have an automation that's running that is on that scheduled consultation, you've scheduled that consultation. Now you're telling having this automation change a stage when it was, yeah. So that's what, sometimes you don't need the automation to do something off of there. That is one example of that. Everything else in here, the first three, if you're scheduling or registering for something, separate automations should be handling that. The reason for that is because someone can register for a workshop or schedule a call from another means. It doesn't always have to happen off of this form. So if it didn't always happen off of this form, and there's any way for anybody to do any of that, you want that to be a separate automation for that action. Right? Excuse me. These are all the actions that you can add. There's a lot. You can send an email. You can send an email internally. You can send an email externally. You can do any of those things. You can create an appointment. Now, if you create an appointment, you have to have a date and some stuff in there of when it is to create the date from a custom field in there, whatever else. You can do that, and it will create that appointment for you. You can request an appointment, and this will send an appointment request to someone to schedule their own appointment. You can add a task for someone internally. You could add due dates, assign to, assign by, subtask to it. You can do all of the task things here. And this is how you can build out tasks before meetings, before events, before all of those things. That's where you add all those tasks in there. Things that have to be done by a human. I will tell you that Lawmatics is not task focused. And you'll see that in Lawmatics. There's not a lot of focus on task management and all that stuff. Like, it's in there. There's not a lot of focus on that. And the reason for that is because just about anything other than picking up the phone and calling somebody, and just actually creating a paper file, if you're still a paper firm, things like that, where an actual person has to do anything else, you can make an automation do it. You don't need to create a task for someone to send an email to someone. Like, it can send that email. So that's kind of why that is. We can add delays. We can add if conditions, and the if conditions you can trigger off of all of your entry conditions. So you can take if the most used one is, of course, match on fields, but it can be any of these things. How this can come into play, let's say that I put someone in for a follow-up, and I can do an if condition if they came in from, if they filled a certain form, which means that they came from a certain place on our website and they filled this form and got this information, I can send a different email to that person than I might to someone else. So you can use all of these different things. Like, if they registered for an event, if they came to a workshop, if they, all of those, you can pull all of these things in and really customize what's going out to your client that way. That is the if branches in there. I hit the wrong button. Let me just go to this one. You can send a form. You can send a form internally. You can send a form externally. You can send a document to someone internally or externally. And this is just a generated document for that. I'm going to tell you something that's really cool to do with this as a little bonus. This whole send document, if you're actually mailing things to people, you can, instead of creating a task for someone to to print out a letter and mail it, you can actually put that in here as send the document. Lawmatics and send it internally to your client services. Lawmatics will send that in an email to them, and in the email that goes with it, you just say print and mail this. They open it, print it, and mail it, and that's it. So it's not a task for them. It comes in, it's already ready. They don't have to prepare anything. It's all taken care of. Here's your e-signature packet, and your request signature. You can send both of them. You can send an SMS, which is a text message. You can request files. You can send a file request. Change attributes is a big one that is used because you can use it for any, you can use it for stages. You can use it for any data field in there. You can use it for all of those types of things. So that's a really big one where you don't need people to manually move them to a stage. It automatically happens. Sync to case management. If you're using another case management for this, like Clio or whatever else, this performs a sync. What that means is that actually puts the information from Lawmatics over into that case management and updates that information. You can send invites to the portal automatically. You can run conflict checks automatically, create and send invoices to clients. We use this a lot in like the maintenance program where you don't need to go in and create an invoice for all your maintenance people. There's an automation that will create all of those invoices and send them out based on those settings. And create a folder in a matter. There's one thing that is not on here, and that's because I started it out from here and there's actions after it. And that is right here, which is convert matter. That has to be at the end. It has to be the last thing that is done. And that converting matter is what changes it from a PNC to a hired, and it puts your converted date in there, and that's your date they're technically hired, and all of those things. So in reality, here's what you can do. And I'm going to run through from the end of a consultation. I can send a fee agreement to someone. Okay, so I'm going to send a request a signature. I'm going to send that to them. I can have an automation that triggers when that fee agreement is signed. Then it can send them an invoice. It will then track when that invoice is paid. And when that invoice is paid, it will trigger another automation that can invite them to the portal, send them an email, all this stuff, put them in the right stage, and convert the matter. Not a single person has touched anything from the time that consultation ended, and they are all the way through to hired. And with that, I would add task and internal emails to let people know that happened, because that is the other thing, is automation can keep on working for you. So that is a way that all of these things tie in together. Now, John, do you have any input on that stuff?
I have a little rundown. Do you want me to do that now or at the when you're done?
Go ahead. Go ahead.
Okay. So, just real quick on e-signature packets, if you're familiar with DocuSign, it's really similar to their envelopes that you can stack things on top of each other to send in a single envelope. But in this one, you can include forms and based on their answer, auto-generate agreements and things like that. So it's very similar to DocuSign in their envelope system. And it is new. It's kind of a cool thing Lawmatics put in. Another one was when an appointment ends, that trigger on time before or after an appointment. Just know that it's not reading your Zoom meeting when you close the Zoom meeting. It's reading the scheduled end of the meeting. Just so you know, if you want to say 10 minutes after a meeting, it's not when you close the meeting. Automations label, label, label. have a naming structure for your automations that clearly identify what it is doing. Use the description and use the folder organizations. You will kick yourself in 6 months if you didn't do it when you're trying to go through your automations and figure out what they are. If you want to get into texting, this is the best way to do it without having to manually text. And if you're not texting, you're missing out big time. 21% of emails are read. 93% of texts are read. So Lawmatics has two-way texting, but you don't even have to do that. But you do want to ensure that you're texting your confirmations, your reminders, things like that. That is all I have. I'll say one thing at the very end.
Okay. So the fourth part of the automation is this end, your exit conditions. In this one, we don't have an exit condition, and we don't need an exit condition, because when the form is submitted, it's going to run down through that form and it's going to check this consultation outcome all of these times and do what was meant to happen off of that form. That's what we want it to do. We do not want it to exit at any point. All right. And when it runs the whole way down, it just ends. It's complete. That's it. It's done. Right? That's what you want this condition to do. However, if I am in a follow-up one, so let's just say this post-workshop follow-up, my entrance condition is the stage is workshop post follow-up. So when they get put into that stage, then all of these things in here happen. And I'll shrink this down so you can see really what this kind of looks like. You can't read them at this point, but it goes down and it asks how they want to be communicated by, who all that should go to. These are text messages. These are tasks to call, all of that thing. So it's going to run down. It's going to do this. This whole automation is very long. It's going to contact them 4 times. It's going to count those times. And it's going to wait and then do the next one and wait and do the next one. So that's what these long ones are. And at the very end, if they don't do anything, it's going to move them to a no response after workshop stage. That's what's going to happen. That's what all of this mess is, right? So we have an exit. We need an exit condition here because we don't want this to keep running. Because what if that person goes up here and they get this first email, and this first email is, hey, you've attended a workshop. Here, now schedule a consultation. And they call you or they click on the form and they schedule that consultation right away. At that point, you don't want to keep sending them emails. Like, you don't want to do that. So you need to make this stop. Well, here's what we know. When someone schedules a consultation, when a consultation is scheduled, whether they do it through a form or they call in and someone internally does it, when that happens, it moves, there's an automation to move the stage, and it's going to move them into your consultation stage. It's going to do that automatically. So we can make this exit condition. We're going to make this stage, if I can spell it, is not equal to workshop post follow-up. So if they get moved out of that stage, this automation exits. Now, I will tell you this, when you have them in place, if we are in the middle of this, where see this is a delay 2 days, if it is in the middle of that delay and they move, it will not actually technically exit. It will still say in the matter that it is in a delay. It will not exit until that delay is finished. And as soon as that delay is finished, it exits. Okay. But don't freak out about that, because that is one of those things you think it should like happen right away, but it's in a delay. It's not doing anything. So that's just one of those things to be aware of. So this exit condition is then very important because you want to be able to stop things that are happening if the situation changes. In most cases, your exit condition is exactly the opposite of your entrance condition. In most cases, there are a couple where they might be a little different, but most of the time, if this starts the automation, the opposite of that would end the automation. Okay? That's how all of that works. Now, like John said, we have the organization is in here. So you have folders. You can put them into folders. You can add numbers to them in the order in which they happen in a perfect world and perfect case, which we know, there's a couple of them out there. And you can also use this. You can filter by your target type, by the automation type. There you can add tags to stuff, and then you also can filter by your shared rules for that in there. So yeah, that is what an automation is and all of the different parts of it. Its anatomy. John?
Cool. Just two quick things. If you're using active campaign, exit conditions will be very familiar to you. It's just a different term. In active campaign, they're called goals. If you set a goal in active campaign, that's what's going to stop something or move it to another automation. So this is the same. It's just something to stop something that's happening because a goal has been met. So that's where you set your goal for the automation. And if they hit that goal, get them out. The thing I wanted to tie the bow on this with is, Beth, will you go to our website to the automated case study calculator? So if you're in a manual system and you want to see the time you could save, like especially for a client service coordinator, no, that was right. Bottom left. Bottom, nope, bottom left, your other left.
Oh,
There we
this
go.
one. Okay, sorry.
If you want to see how much time you can save from a manual system to an automated system, this will analyze 3 key points of a client service coordinator. It's just a little short interview, and then it gives you how much time you save a day, a week, a month, a year. And if you put an hourly wage in there, it will track that as well to tell you how much you could save that they could be doing other revenue generating tasks. This is free. Just go on here and just do it. And you'll even see how a lead magnet works because you'll see how Lawmatics is going to fire that to you because I have this talking to it and things like that. So yeah, absolutely go get this tool. It's really powerful. We are going to expand it. I just haven't quite had the time to do that for other practice areas like paralegals, things like that. But this will get your client service coordinator at least analyzed a little bit, and you can really see that analysis.
I have one more thing that I want to tell you all, and that is in testing. Because the biggest thing that you do is you set up an automation and you go to do this. You go to turn it on and it says it's going to run immediately on 15 matters. And you're like, what matters are those? I don't know what matters they are. What am I going to do? Okay. Do I want to do that or not? So first of all, what you can do with that is you can take your entry conditions and don't forget to grab some of the stuff out of the settings. Like if you have that only doing PNC matters, you need to make that a condition. You can take your entry conditions, you can go to reports, you can create a custom report, if it's a matter, whatever. And in your report itself, you can go to like here, you can go to your edit and you can put filters in there. Put the filters in there that exactly match the automation. That should give you the same numbers. You know what matters are going to run. Okay. So that's an important part of this whole turning it on is being able to do that and go, yep, these are the 15 matters that are going to run. The other thing that you can do is you can go into matters themselves and you can go in, you can grab a matter. And up here in this, here is the matter number, right? This is your matter ID. So if I want to test something, that I don't want to just turn it on out in the wild for everybody, but I have a test matter that I want to play with. I can go in here and grab this ID number and copy it. I can go into one of my automations and I can add a condition here because we have fields, right? Sorry, that was funny because I just realized that's not available the other day. You can grab the name. You want to grab the name of the matter, not the ID number, because that's not available. And then you want the case title is equal to, put that case title in there. If you name it testing, whatever you do, put it in there. And now this automation, make sure that's an and, okay? This automation will only run on that matter. So you can set up an automation and then see what it does in one matter without worrying about doing everything else. Then when you're ready to turn it on for everybody else, you just come in here and delete that trigger, and now you're ready to go with everybody else. Wanted to give you that little tip in there. Okay, all righty. There we go.
Awesome. All right. So, before we wrap this up, I just want to make a quick note for anybody watching on YouTube. We always stop the recording here and then open it up for live Q&A. That isn't part, this part isn't recorded, so people can ask real questions and talk through real situations. If you want to be a part of that conversation, we do this live every Friday at noon Eastern. It's free, and the link to join is in the description.